Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to Wake Up with Jenny and Friends. I am your host, as always, Jenny, and I am joined today by the fabulous Miss Alicia. How are you?
Good. How about you?
I am very well. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm so excited to have you join me today and have you co host with me. I have been looking forward to this all week. Not only are you a fabulous person and a beautiful soul, but you, ma'am, are an epic with a capital K storyteller.
I wouldn't go that far. Thank you for having me. I'm humbled and honored. Thank
Well, thank you for being here. We've got a lot of things to talk about today. We've got a few little games, a few little things we're going to do as per usual. But let's start with how was your weekend? How is your week going?
you.
Eh.
I mean, it's the week of Christmas, and I have no no brain power left. I'm like a walking zombie. I'm like, is it Monday? What day is it?
I hear
But I
you.
thought today was Christmas Eve all day yesterday, and my mama was like, "Baby girl, no." No, why are you panicking? I was like, "'Cause I don't know if I'm coming or going. I have no idea." So, yeah, how about you?
I hear you. Well, I'm going through a little bit of a bout of insomnia lately, so the not knowing of which days it is, I can totally relate. I'm not even sure what decade I'm in, quite frankly. I'm hoping sweatshirts are still in because, I live in them.
I had trouble with the year. Mama was like, "Baby, we're not in 2022. What are you stop. Don't rush it till next year." I was like, I don't know.
I think there's a general consensus that we want to rush into 2022, though. We want to get the hell out of 2021, no?
Far away.
Yeah.
I don't know if it will bring a change or not, but it's like, please,
Yeah,
please.
2021 is the boyfriend that you want to break up with. You want to let that one go.
It's far away from me. Oh, no.
Are you ready for Christmas? Are you doing the whole big gifts and the is that your jam for Christmas? Do you have any holiday traditions?
Um, I have been baking like crazy because baking is my thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I have been baking. Um, we Christmas Eve I spend with my parents, and so we go do brunch. Then I'm gonna accompany them tomorrow to candlelight service.
Nice.
It'll be the first time that I do it in a long time, but because we're just trying to make things a little different this year, because we lost my mother-in-law this summer,
I'm so sorry.
and then things look a little different for me because I'll be having surgery and going through some stuff on my own. So
Mm-hmm.
trying to make it as much as possible, since I was allowed Christmas, because I fought tooth and nail with the doctors. I'm like, now let me tell you, mm-mm. You're gonna give me Thanksgiving and Christmas with my family. Then
And
then
nobody fights with Miss Alicia. So that is a no-no right there.
they try. They really try. I said, try Jesus, but don't try me.
Right. Now you're in Tennessee.
Yes.
And so tell me about Tennessee. What's the weather like right now? It's getting a little windy and chilly and nippy here out in Canada, but tell me about the weather in Tennessee.
They say it's 62 degrees, but it is not 62 degrees to me. But I'm cold constantly.
Are you?
I I am on what side am I on? East, west.
Oh, girl, don't ask me. I can't find my way to the kitchen without getting lost. Trust me.
I'm directionally
Yeah.
challenged. I am directionally challenged. I'm like, look,
Yes.
don't tell me north, south, east, or west. Tell me, is it next to
Uh-huh.
a restaurant?
Yeah, yeah.
That's
If you go
what you're
past the
gonna have to
McDonald's,
tell
you've gone too far.
me.
Yeah,
Exactly.
that's the
Tell me, is
directions
it
that I
next
know.
to a Hobby Lobby, a Walmart? That is what you're gonna have to tell me. Um, but it is 62 for everybody else. It's warm, but it is extremely windy here, so I'm cold.
Yuckers.
But nowhere
Wouldn't it
near
be
what it
fun
is
if we
right
went on a
now.
road trip together and we just saw, we just let the road take us wherever
Yeah.
it did? Because we wouldn't know the difference.
No. I'd be like, just hit that interstate and let's go. Because our major interstates are 40 and 240. So I'd be like, just hit 240. Let's see where it goes.
Now being directionally challenged, I have this funny quirk also that I know damn well that I don't know where I'm going, but I also, as a caveat to that, I don't believe the GPS. So
No.
I don't know if you have that as well, but I will put the address in the GPS and it will tell me to go. It'll say turn left. And I'm like, I don't think it's left though.
Mm-mm.
I know I don't know where I'm going, but I don't trust the map.
I don't either. Because it has led me in some weird places. I've ended up in a dead end. I've
Really?
like, this is not, nope. I
You
have
end up
ended
in
up
Lemonville.
strange, and especially when before GPS was done, when you had MapQuest,
Mm.
I was headed to a wedding in South Carolina. I could have told you that two banjos was going to start playing, and I was ended up in the gully because I ended up calling the groom's mom, and I was like, no, this is not. I don't feel. She's like, you've gone the wrong way. I said, but this is what it says right here. No, this is not correct. She
Just
said,
not
well, that's
trustworthy.
no.
Mm.
So, and I have a habit of driving roads just to drive them
Mm.
to see where they will lead me just so I can figure out stuff in case I get lost, which is an odd thing. I know.
It is remarkably odd. And I'm glad we're in the same boat with that. But now here's another thing. Do you find, because this is also a little quirk, if I'm in another country, I know where I am. I can find my I can find my way around in another country. No problem.
Now, I have never, and this is sad, I've never been out of the US, not for lack of trying. I would claw my way out of here. But when we go out of town to go visit family, I
Uh-huh.
retain really quickly. And other family members are like, now, is it here? I'm like, this is where you go, boop, boop, boop. And I know exactly where we're going. I'm like, take a left, take a right, and they're like,
Yeah.
you're not even from here. How in the world? How the hell?
I know. I know. I think it's fear-based. It's got to be fear-based. I think
It
because
is.
when you're in another country, you there's a already a preconceived notion that you don't know where you're in, somewhere foreign, right?
Mhm.
And you don't know where, so you maybe pay attention more to the landmarks and to
It has to
the
be.
roads and the it's got to be fear-based. That's the only thing I can think of. It's got to be fear-based because I could be in my own city and I don't know where the grocery store is without asking 15 people and doing 500 U-turns, you know. But I could be in Istanbul and I'd be like, "Oh yeah, go left at the,
Mhm.
shawarma."
Because when I worked out of town, I did that. I got to know every, and it's so funny because we moved to the countryside to where I used to work.
Uh-huh.
And I don't quite know the street names or anything, but I can tell you, I'm like, okay, this is where you go, this is how you get there, there's the back way. And everybody's like, how the hell do you know the back ways to all this? And I'm like, oh, by the way, pay attention to this house. It is so gorgeous
Mhm.
when
Yes.
you go. I used to love looking at that house when I
I know. Uh, Pretty girls don't need to know how to drive, so that's all I'm gonna say. What are you drinking today, ma'am? I know we both share a love of the bean juice.
Today it's holiday blend from Starbucks.
Ooh, you're a Starbucks girl.
And let me explain that.
Please do.
Because I get a free pound every week. And everybody's
Mhm.
going to be like, excuse me, how do you do that? Because my wife works for Starbucks.
Well, so now you have the inside scoop, pun intended. Ha,
Exactly.
right.
She's been there for 19 years.
Oh, wow.
So during the seasons, because like probably my favorites, especially this time of year, are like holiday blend, Thanksgiving blend. Um,
Mm.
if you've never had Cassie's Yellow,
No, I haven't had that. No.
Cassie's Yellow, we live for it to come out because technically it's a dessert coffee
Okay.
and it pairs really well with like brownies and chocolates and other things.
Ooh.
But drinking it by itself, yes, please.
Yeah. Are you a pumpkin spice girl?
No,
No, yeah.
I
I
used
think
to
it's
be
overhyped.
very much overhyped, and I used to be probably about 15, 16 years ago. I used to be a peppermint mocha, pumpkin
Ooh.
spice, and then when they recalibrated the recipe so that it had more of pumpkin puree in it,
Mm.
something kind of got weird and tweaked with it, but it is very, very overhyped. Now there is one that I was like, pumpkin spice who? Everybody needs to try this. And I'm probably going to get it wrong, but it is a brown sugar chai with oat milk in
Oh,
it.
no. Okay. I thought you were going to say oatmeal. I was going to say, sorry, this interview's over. I'm done. Oatmeal is my my pet peeve are overnight oat recipes. My- I can't. And let me tell you why. I have come across so many healthcare workers and nutritionists and clinical practitioners, and they all do the same thing when they first start out. They're like, follow me for new recipes. Oh, here's my new recipe book. And what is in it? Fucking overnight oats. It's not new, people.
No, it's
Overnight
not.
oats is not new. Because you put a
No,
dash of cinnamon in it, Sally, doesn't make it a new
doesn't make it
recipe.
too. No,
It drives
no,
me banana. It makes me cringe overnight.
no. I'm just like, I've been doing that for a long time.
Yeah.
And I put the same thing in it. I put a little peanut butter in it, and then I
Mhm.
add some peaches to it.
But you're not making videos about it. It's
Oh,
like it's a new thing. Like it's not a new thing.
and just like when people are, I'm gonna get so much hate for this.
Oh,
And
bring it on. We love it
apologize
all.
for anybody that I'm about to offend. Um, I can't please everybody.
Uh-huh.
But when everybody's like, "Oh my god, I'm gluten free,"
Gluten-free bitches.
and I'm like, "Oh, okay. Well, I mean, are you okay? For health?" Oh no, it's clean living. I'm like, there is nothing clean about going gluten free, baby. Like, there's not. It is not healthier. Take it from somebody who lives with celiac disease.
Mhm. Mhm.
Like, there's not. And I wouldn't wish it upon anybody. Like, when I was diagnosed with celiac back in 2008, there was nothing on the market.
Yeah.
Everything tasted like cardboard
Cardboard. Yes, and no flavor.
at all. And I'm like, have you compared the calorie intake when you buy the bread, the gluten free bread, or you buy them gluten free donuts, boo boo? Because you look at the carbohydrate intake, the fat intake, and the calorie intake,
Mhm.
and it is outrageous. And everybody's like, and so when people are like, "Oh my God, guess what I found for you? I got you a goodie." And I'm like, "Oh, you did? What did you get me?" "I got you some gluten-free bread." And I'm like, "Thank you. I'm not gonna eat it." And they're like, "What can you eat? Can you eat potato chips?"
The dogs are gonna love this. Thank you so much.
I'm like, "There's a lot of stuff I can eat. I just don't eat the gluten-free bread and the gluten-free donuts and the gluten-free this because." They're like, "Well, if you don't eat bread, what do you eat?" "I eat gluten-free crackers. It's just because the calorie intake is so horrible."
Yeah, and I
It's
and I
just
think people think automatically because, like you said, because they think it's gluten-free or it's vegan or that it's healthier. And in some aspects it is, but just because it's labeled as something doesn't
yeah,
mean it's fat-free or it's less in calories or it's healthier. There's a ton of vegan foods out there
yeah,
that are battered and fried, like you know what I mean? Like
yeah.
there's vegan junk food. There's vegan junk food that is no less fatty than regular
Right.
meat
I'm like,
based.
if you make it for yourself, yes, it's much cleaner. It is less fat. It
Hmm.
is less carbs
Hmm.
if you're gonna make that bread yourself. Or if you're gonna prep your vegan food yourself, or if you're gonna prep those things. And people are like, "Ugh, I don't have time for that." I'm like, okay.
You know what I just bought? I just bought an air fryer. I just bought an air fryer. I know, I know. And
Really want one.
I know. Well, so it's called the Calorix. I don't know which brands are the best. I just bought that one because it was on sale at Walmart. But you know Tommy, I think you probably follow Tommy on TikTok.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
love
So
tea.
Tommy's always raving about his air fryer and he's always like cooking a bunch of food in there. So I saw it on sale and I thought, "Oh my gosh, you know what? I'll try it." Because I also follow this other girl on TikTok. Her hashtag is low carb kind of life or something like that. Carb
I think
free
I know who you're
keto,
talking
something. Yeah, she always makes the things and at the end she always says, "If you try it, tag me and let me know." That
about.
girl. Anyways, she makes some killer stuff in the air fryer. So I bought this air fryer. Did not have high hopes, like any appliance that I buy. I'm not a cooker. I don't cook. I can admit that. I will burn water, and I'm okay with that. Listen, Miss Alicia, I have many other fine qualities, okay?
You have lots of fine qualities. You was fine all over.
So I bought this air fryer. Let me tell you, when it takes 4 minutes to cook something, I did Brussels sprouts with vegan cheese.
I
Four
love
minutes, 8 minutes, whatever it was, no time at all. Turned out amazing. So in love, so in love. The air fryer has saved my life.
my son
I've got
even
a tiny bit of kitchen cred now.
my son even has an air fryer.
It's the best thing ever on the planet. It is the best. Yeah, I think mine was $60. Is the best $60 I've ever spent,
So I'm like, it's
hands down.
perfect for my chicken nuggies.
Yeah, and you can cook anything. You can bake a cake in that freaking thing. You can
My
bake
brother-in-law
a
was uh,
cake.
he's like, you make the perfect grilled cheese.
Yeah,
And I was like, you you have me at that.
yeah.
I mean, mine
Exactly.
would be a quesadilla, but
Ooh,
'cause
quesadillas.
I love
Ooh, quesadillas.
the
Well,
gluten-free
speaking of
cookies.
food, what are your favorite Southern desserts? Because that's one of our topics today. Is talking about desserts.
It's so funny
And I know
because
you're a baker.
it's so funny because as far as, like, baking a lot of the stuff that I bake, most of the stuff that I try that I do as far as trying my hand at
Uh-huh.
is a lot of British baking.
Okay.
Or it like, one of the things that I love to do, macarons are my biggest, like,
Ooh.
the biggest things that I do. Because to me, they're such a challenge because they're delicate. You have to do everything. And I'm like, oh, but uh, anything that is not like if it is Mary Berry, I'm gonna try my hand at it. Like, from the British Bake Off, because it is the biggest show that I just live for and watch, and I'm like,
Uh-huh.
"I wanna try that." Like, if it is a challenge.
It looks
But,
challenging, yeah.
um, other than that, like, just this week, besides, um, doing the macarons, I did shortbread cookies,
Mm,
because I'd never tried my
classic.
shortbread cookies.
Mhm.
Typically,
Always a hit.
do, um I do sugar cookies and then chocolate sugar cookies at Christmas.
Oh,
Um,
chocolate sugar cookies. Ooh,
because every year I do those, decorate them, hand paint them, and everybody gets those for Christmas along with macarons. But I was like, I'm going to do shortbread cookies because I never tried it. And so I did plain ones and then I did cherry filled ones because it said cranberry. And I was like, mm, nobody around me likes cranberry, so I'm going to do cherry.
very nice.
But if I'm gonna choose Southern desserts, as far as being able to eat any of them and have them, is some of my favorite. Sweet potato pie, hands
Mm.
down, it's like one of my very first favorites.
And
Matter of fact, my son wanted sweet potato pie for his birthday. He was like, "I want pie for my birthday." I was like, "What? Are you
instead of
okay?"
cake. It's not like, what was that thing you were talking about? Poke salad.
Poke salad.
Poke salad. Please tell us about the poke salad.
Growing up, now my mama has some wild stories.
Mhm.
Like, her stories are even wilder than mine. Where she has told me, because my mama has had peacock for Thanksgiving.
Peacock.
Because
Hush.
my mama grew
Peacock. Like the
oh,
bird with the
her,
glorious feathers.
yes, because my mama grew up really poor.
Okay.
Like, my mama grew up very, very poor.
Uh-huh.
Like, and she was the only girl. All of her siblings were boys. Um, so God bless her. Um, and they didn't have I mean, there was just nothing for Thanksgiving dinner. I mean, matter of fact, I think it was a turnip truck or sweet potato truck that
Mhm.
turned over, and all the kids went and like gathered as many as they could, and they cooked them so many different ways for like a week. And so the next door neighbors to them, they had wild animals. And I was like, how wild are you talking about? She was like, they had monkeys, they had peacocks,
Monkeys?
had all kinds of stuff.
What? And this in Tennessee?
No, my mama's from Arkansas.
In Arkansas, okay.
Yeah. And so she said that one of the peacocks got out and it got hit by a car.
Oh,
And I was like, oh my
poor
God,
thing.
that's horrible. So because they didn't have a bird for Thanksgiving, the neighbors said, well, you can have this.
Mm. Oh my.
And I said, you are a lie. And she was like, no. And I said, so what did y'all do? She said, we took it and plucked it and cooked it. And I said, what did it taste like? She said, like chicken.
Like chicken. The classic.
I said, I can just see peacock feathers she was like, yeah, just flying everywhere.
Oh my lord. I mean, what are the chances, first of all, what are the chances of having a peacock in your yard? Number one. Number two, that peacock goes rogue and decides, I'm going to escape this joint. Good luck to me. Oops, oncoming traffic. Sorry about my life. And then third, is now the center of Thanksgiving table. I mean,
He is just, because my grandparents had a farm. And when I say a farm, they had everything: chickens, bulls, horses, like everything, working farm.
do they have
And
any muskox? I don't see too many muskox around anymore.
no,
Mm, okay.
But I mean, they had quite a bit of stuff. And so she would say to me, um, because I would wonder where the cows would go, or
Hmm.
I'd wonder where things would go, because I just thought they were pets.
Mhm.
That's what
Mhm.
I thought.
Yeah.
But
As you
come to
do.
find out,
Yeah.
no, not so much because my granddaddy named them. Like,
Oh,
who?
that makes it worse.
I'd be like, well, where did Patrick Henry go? Where did this cow go? Where did this cow go? I traded him for
Mm.
soybeans, or I traded him for this. So I thought traded just meant traded. No.
Didn't know as a child it was code word for murder.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I just thought that the chickens were pets. And my mama would say to me, I know how to wring one of their necks and we can.
As a child, she said this to
I was like, what do you mean? She was like, if we want one for dinner, I can just take it and we can just. And I was like, what do you mean? She said, you just pick one up and you just twirl it around and it snaps its neck. And
Oh my god.
I'm like, Mama. She said, but sometimes if you don't snap it just right, it keeps running around. She said, henceforth, like a chicken with its head cut off. I'm like, that is terrible.
Oh my goodness.
I was like, I'm never eating chicken again.
How
She
did
was
you
like, what
process
do
that?
you mean?
How did
Like,
you process that?
it just, I just thought she was crazy sometimes. I really
She
did.
thought she was crazy. Mom has gone crazy.
It's pokeweed.
And what's
Like,
it? So what's it akin to? Is it? It's like akin to of the
like
poison
turnip
ivy
greens.
family? Oh, like turnip
Well,
greens.
it's akin to it. It's akin to like turnip greens or mustard greens.
Okay, so what's the main element in that would be arsenic?
Probably because of the berries. But the
Yeah.
berries that are on it have healing properties as well. But done incorrectly.
I mean, a little bit of arsenic's good for you.
Exactly.
No, it truly is.
And that's what I'm just
It'll cure a few things.
I'm just like, great.
But don't overdo it.
Just like, I mean, just like back to the nutmeg, her worried about putting too much nutmeg in the pie.
Oh my gosh. Well, one of the things I love so much about you, Miss Alicia, is aside from your poke wheat salad, is your storytelling. And you launched a humdinger of a story on on a multi-part series on TikTok. And when I tell you I was invested in your story, that you so generously allowed people a look into your life and the circumstances around your family and your discovering of, if it's fair to say, of who you are. I am like glued to your timeline because I'm waiting for the next part. I've watched and rewatched just to hear the story again because it you're so good at telling a story, number one. And you give off such like fried green tomato vibes. It's I when I tell you I'm invested, I am a sign on the dotted line, hooked into your story. And so I would love to talk about this. I mean, I don't want to waste any time because like I said, I am so invested in the story and I am like Pavlov's dog. I'm salivating at the next bit of information. But for our audience here who has not yet been on TikTok and who has not yet heard your story, please start from the beginning and please share with us your incredible story
And I know
of
you're like, can you please post the next bit
I I
of
I
because I
I'm
just kind
telling
of
you.
like I've left it hanging, and I feel bad that I have not continued it.
This
Like,
is if Netflix does not pick this up as a mini series, I have no faith in the broadcast system anymore. I just I don't know where we're headed, really, quite frankly. But
you flatter me. And just like when you said fried green tomatoes, I was like, oh my God, I love Sadie Flag. I
so
love
so good,
her.
so good. Okay, I can't wait. Take it
I was
away.
like,
You have the
my
stage.
Issy or my Rose? Which one am I? Oh my God. Because like I said, when I started that, I was like, where do I begin to start me? Like my
Hmm.
journey
Hmm.
of why I am who I am and why I use my platform the way I do.
Right.
And I was like, right here. Um, so the family tea, like that's where I started it. Like, oh my gosh, this is the hugest family tea that I mean, there's probably something bigger.
Oh, that's right, because it was a stitch, right? The original
Yeah,
video
like
with some girl
like
saying, "What's the
family tea.
tea?"
Yeah. Um, but I'm just gonna tell you, like, sometimes my life is actually smells like drama and a headache. Like, honestly. Like, people are like, "Can I bow out?" I mean, I have people going, "Girl, no." And I'm like, "Yeah, I've
No,
lived
no,
this."
like you shouldn't tell your story, or no, like they couldn't believe it.
That they can't believe it.
Mm.
That you know.
Because it's so fascinating. It's so fast, and it dates back to, and I'll let you get into that, but it does date back into the 1920s. Your story, like it just like there's so much history, and a lot of people would be surprised at the facts related to the story, and some more well-known people involved in your story, and so
Feel
this.
like really what shaped,
Mm,
I guess, the generational curses is how it kind of established
mm.
it, is really what happened.
And so this started out as a project that you had to do in
Mhm.
school, right? So, take us through those first steps about how this came to about. Came to be. You were in school and you were having to do a genealogy, a family tree
Yeah,
project, right?
I was going to do a family tree project. Now I knew, I've known since a young age about it, but like I knew, but I didn't know. I didn't know the depths because my grandmama uh, taught me sign language from a young age. Like it's been my second language.
You know sign as well?
Yes.
I love
So
it.
I that is and she was also my safe haven in between a lot of things for me, um, through a lot of stuff. And she and I bonded. She helped raise me
Mm,
for a lot of stuff. So she would share with me, but it was more of the word adopted,
mm,
because her parents were deaf, is what I would get. But the word black market and being sold was never being brought up. And so when it came about for us to do the family tree and I was working on it, then I got the revelation of, well, this is how far back we can go. And I was getting her name from my mom and my dad
because
because
originally you wanted to do the project on your dad and your mama, who who's not your biological mother, but your mama.
yeah.
And
And my father is my biological father.
right.
And so I was now living with them, and my mom was like, well, you really don't need to do it on my side. You need to do it on your biological mother's side.
Mhm.
And so we had gotten to my grandmama at that point, and my dad was like, well, I don't know her last name. You need to go talk to her. And I was like, why? I don't, like, you were married and knew all this stuff. And he was like, because she was sold as a black market baby. And I was like, what? What do you
And so
mean?
that, so hearing that alone, like in it, we don't often think, like in this country,
Hmm.
and I'm going to speak for myself, maybe I'm naive to this, but I would assume that many of us of this race and time and status don't often think about that happening in this country so close to home.
Oh,
It,
God. No.
there's, I think there's, for the large majority of people, we think about, black market, selling kids on the black market. And now, like, human trafficking has become much more prevalent today than it was before. And maybe we're just hearing about it more, but we don't ever think that it happens this close to home.
No.
Would that be fair to say?
I was like, that's not something that happens here
Right.
or with people. That's like organs and like, what do you,
Yeah, I mean,
I,
the idea of adoption is fairly, people are cognizant of that idea, but black market, like selling of children, that's
or,
just
or even that close, like for me, that would have been something that happened like, what,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
way earlier time period,
Mm.
not something that affected my grandmother, but
Mhm.
maybe like great, 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 something like that.
Right, right, right. So your mama said, "Okay, you got to do this project, but you got to do it on your bio mom side."
She thought that that was the most fair and honest thing because my mama is the most honest person. She was like, that's the honest thing.
Mhm.
And plus, she didn't want people hurt,
Mm. Right.
anyone hurt with it.
Right.
Now, mind you, also, nobody at school, all of my friends and everybody else, they knew her when we come
Right.
to school activities. She was the PTA mama, she was the room mama, she was the band mama. They knew her as my mama. That's the face that they'd always seen. Nobody had ever seen this phantom woman
Mm.
ever. Her names were on documents and schoolwork paper and those things. Nobody knew her. I mean, for legal purposes, her name had to be listed for other things.
So it was kind of a multifaceted rabbit hole for you to go down as a child too, because you're gonna find out, about your family and your family's history, but now you're also sort of at a young age kind of exposing the fact that your mama, you've got two moms, and that alone for a child is can be kind of confusing, right?
Very
and
much that.
and now you're opening up yourself to this whole classroom who's gonna possibly ask questions about, well, how is this not your mama? We always thought this was your mom. So it's so in depth, and it's so interesting, and I have to give you credit, and I because it's so much to take on as a child, and it very brave, very, very brave of you, and you've done such an impeccable job at cultivating this story, this part of your history in your life in such a beautifully well spoken way. And it's really a gift that you have given to viewers, to followers, to people who might have been in the same situation. And it's so brave of you. So I want to first preface this story by saying that, and I'm very proud of you. That takes a lot of guts. So,
Thank you. That means more than you can even imagine.
well, thank you for sharing it. So we get to the point where your dad says you need to go talk to your grandma.
So I call her and I tell her what, you know, I have this project. I need to interview you. And even on tape, can I do it on tape? And I'm doing this. And because we do have to interview a family member and it had to be on tape. And she was like, absolutely. I said, are you okay with this? Because I knew that it possibly can open wounds for her. She was like, I'm okay. So we sit down and we go to, and we had a list of questions
Mhm.
because even when I play snippets of the tape in this, I skip over myself talking and asking, and you can hear the programming in some of the questions like that I'm asking and reading off these questions that
Mhm.
we're supposed to ask, like um one of the questions that I just kind of giggle over was, did you have a form of religion that you practiced during that time, just to get to know them. And I remember listening to the other classmates when they're presenting the same common questions to get to know all of them. But listening to those questions, because I had not listened to that tape since 1990.
And I'm so glad that you have that. Are you not? Are you not glad that you have that now to reflect on?
I'm
That
so thankful.
it's
And time again, I have said to myself, I was going to put it on a CD and
mm,
I was going to give it to each of her children and then give it to the other grandchildren so that they could have a copy of it.
it's
And
such
I'm not
an
done it yet.
amazing element to have to add to this story. So you sit down with your grandma and you start asking her questions.
And listening to her just go over each detail of her experience there. And now, mind you, some of the other parts that I pulled out and found out, like in the interview, she didn't tell me that her aunt had taken her.
Hmm.
She didn't tell me about that. She didn't tell me that that is what happened, that she took her and said, stay here. And when I come back, um, I'll be back later and we'll go get ice cream.
So first you sit down with your grandma and then you ask her these questions and she tells you that she a lot of the things she can't remember because she was sold on the black market as a child.
Mhm,
And that's where it kind of starts.
mhm.
And so tell us a little bit about like that conversation and then we get to to your aunt.
Her, it's her aunt, Annie, because of course Bonnie's her biological mother, which would be my great grandma.
Mhm.
Bonnie had gotten herself into some trouble as an unwed woman, and the father that she was in trouble with had gotten himself in trouble with the law.
Mhm.
And back in that day, um, Georgia Tan played on a lot of those things. If she found out that those factors were involved, she would go after women like that.
Mm.
I mean, Georgia Tan had she didn't discriminate against anything.
Right.
Um, she she drove around in her limo, and if she saw children unattended in the yard, she enticed them with candy and got them in the car and took off with them.
Yeah, sort of a female version of Wayne Gacy in
Yeah.
his, in his grooming techniques. And so for anyone listening who's not familiar with Georgia Tan was a woman who operated a trafficking business in the 20s. It operated under falsification of an adoption agency. Um,
With
but
an
what
orphan.
she, or an orphanage, yeah. But what she
Mhm,
actually did was steal and kidnap
mhm.
children and literally sell them. literally saw them, and often to very well-known people. So some of those people were, Joan Crawford, socialites, people in politics. Um, some of the kids who have come out now, you mentioned one of them being Ric Flair, the
Yeah.
wrestler. So it was quite embedded. Um, so tell us about, you find out she was sold on the black market, and then you find out this bit about your aunt, and let's pick up from there.
So when Georgia, because Georgia doesn't approach she doesn't approach Bonnie. She approaches her sister, Aunt Annie, and tells her, look, Bonnie's going to get in trouble when she has get Bonnie to come. Get her to come. I help women like that. Get her to come and I can protect her. Because she also worked with the Irish Catholic churches around here too, the nuns.
Mm-hmm.
So that because what happens with the women, they go to the Irish Catholic churches, they have the babies. So she would bring them in also there to have the babies. So she said, bring her here. Let us house her here. She can have the baby. She can come back. Bonnie wasn't going to have anything to do with that. Nope, I'm keeping the baby. I'm keeping the baby. So Annie keeps talking to her. Bonnie's having nothing to do with that. Even the family trying to tell her. So so she has my grandmother.
Hmm.
She keeps her. Annie takes my grandmother. She's a few years old. She tells Georgia says, look, they're going to come get her because you're unwed, you're single, he's in trouble. The Child Protective Services named something entirely different during that time. They're
Mm-hmm.
going to come get her. They're going to come take her. So Annie takes my grandma to the orphanage, tells her, I will come back for you. I'll come back and get you. We'll have ice cream. And never returns. Leaves my grandma standing right there on the porch. That's what my grandma remembers.
And
But
no
that
one knows, that no one said anything to Aunt Annie. No one went to go look for her.
Annie went back as if nothing happened.
Hmm.
And the only secret that we know, of course, I've not told this part yet. The only thing that we do know is that she did tell Bonnie. Bonnie vowed that she would go back. We do know that. And the only way I know that is that I found out 2 years later, because when I stopped doing my research, my cousin took up the mantle because her daughter had to do a genealogy report. And what did her daughter do? The same thing I did.
Mm-hmm.
She did the same exact project. They came to me and said, we need to know everything that you did, everything that you know. So she did the exact same report that I did, the same family history tree and everything else, and talked about it. So at this time, of course, you have ancestry.com available. That's never been available at that time.
Mm-hmm.
My cousin puts a message board out there. It matches up with someone that happens to be my great uncle,
Oh, wow.
who has a secret that my great grandma took to her deathbed, that completes the circle and the cycle, that she didn't tell about the sibling that was given away to Georgia Tan, that she told on her deathbed to her siblings.
Mm-hmm.
So Bonnie confessed that she had intended to go back to the orphanage to go get her daughter. But when she went back, my grandma was already gone.
Already had been adopted out or sold.
Had already been adopted out and sold.
And this information it wasn't easy for you to find too, because your grandma didn't have a birth date, right? She
She
didn't know her birth date.
Yeah, she didn't know. She just picked it. And this is one part that I hadn't even told yet either, but she was just about spot on.
Really?
Mm. So I was able to get everything with the help of the teacher.
My goodness. And so this is the interesting part too, is so you start doing this project and you're presenting this project to the class, and your teacher also becomes quite invested in your
Very,
story. And she says to you,
I can help. I was like, help with what? Like, what are you talking about? I thought I was in trouble. Like when she held me back, I thought I was truly in trouble. I thought I'd said something wrong, I'd done something wrong. And she was involved with genealogical research and she was connected. So she hooked me up with some people. We corresponded, we wrote in letters. And it was just crazy because then you think about it. My grandmother had been married twice.
"Mm,
Like how do you get married and you don't have a birth certificate? Then at that point she was drawing Social Security.
right, because what happened with all the records?"
And so they wrote in, like she was saying in that one clip, the state had to write into Social Security to get all that, but they still wouldn't release it to her. They were still not releasing everything until right about when I wrote in myself in 1990, 91.
Mm.
That's when everything started exploding on the scene. All those things, all the documentaries, everything started as far as everybody coming out and starting to reconnect, and then them unlocking the records and going, here, you can have them.
So you actually obtained the records.
I actually was able to obtain them.
So lucky, because a lot of the records at that time were altered or destroyed, burned.
A lot. When right as Georgia Tan started to get convicted,
Mm.
because the judge here, the it was the judge, the woman who helped her as far as adopting everybody, Georgia Tan herself. Then it was
Really, the
moving up
whole court
to
system.
everybody, and then it wasn't just here because it was moving up to New York.
Mhm.
The judges there, everybody that was all the socialites, so, so words are hard. All the higher up.
The socialites, yeah.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Um, as far as all of her connections went, everybody that was connected with, they were all being subpoenaed, they were trying to convict them. They were burning the records and altering them.
Mhm.
And it was just crazy. Or trying to lock them up as quickly as they could and seal the records and saying, it doesn't matter.
Because that
Even if
was
it's
really
not.
her MO, right? Her
Mhm.
target population was well-known, connected, wealthy
Big time.
individuals, right? That's where she made her money, Georgia Tan, right? She would charge exorbitant fees, and um, and part of the courts and the churches were also supporting her and
Mhm.
paying her. Um, and that's one thing you do talk about with your Aunt Annie, is about the money. And I know you don't come right out and say it, but you allude to what happened to the money.
Because you can see it. Um, I was able to find pictures of my grandma. of my great grandma and Annie and everybody else. Poor farm girls don't, you know, look that great that quickly. You don't go performing in the USO bars and look like you don't get to wear furs,
Mm,
and you don't go rubbing shoulders with other elite people that quickly.
mm.
And it really, just the look on Aunt Amy's face, very cold
Hmm.
in her eyes, her demeanor.
Well, I imagine you would have to be to do something like that and to live with yourself.
The way in some of the pictures that it captures her, she's always watching Bonnie.
Hmm.
It's almost as if she keeps her eye on Bonnie in some of the pictures.
Out,
It's
out of fear or remorse, do you think? Out
I
of
think
fear.
more, both, I think.
Mm,
I think out of both, more than anything. Just to maybe a little bit out of remorse, but I think also out of fear.
what do you think happens to a person to entice them to do those kinds of things? I mean, was there anything revealed in your discovery of that side of the family that would have alluded to, it's always every family has hardships, but was there anything that would sort of speak to why Annie was the way she was?
Nothing was ever talked about from any of the final research from some of the stuff that I did. And I'm still digging.
Mm,
Um, and then part of me kind of asks myself sometimes, like, how much further do I dig? Um, do I connect with the generations after? Like, does it accomplish anything um, as far as that goes, or
mm.
does it open any more wounds? Um, because it's not that I want anything, except for maybe connection, because I know that they're probably not going to know. The generation that's my generation,
Mhm.
um, or would it have been passed down to them any knowledge, or are they just as clueless as me? Like, would they have any idea,
Mhm.
or do they even care? I know that if I was in their shoes and I found out, I would be angry, hurt. Like,
Mm.
why would you do that? How could you do that? Or I would want answers, like, what was the reason? Mhm.
Mhm.
What was the reason?
Yeah. What was that right there? Yeah.
Because,
I mean,
you know,
surely it wasn't all money motivated. I mean, I'm probably sure a big part of it was for Annie. I'm assuming so, as an outsider looking in, but money doesn't last.
no,
So, I mean, there had to be some other.
because I know not when it is involved with adoption, sometimes people are not ready to be parents.
Mm,
They can't give the love, the support, everything that children need. And, sometimes adoption is glorified because for some children, um,
and
the people that adopt them, it's not sunshine and roses, you know? Um, And for some people that give their kids up for adoption, it's not about they didn't love them. They did. And it's the greatest thing that they could have done for them.
Mhm.
But when it come unfortunately with this layer with Georgia Tan, it it's not black and white.
Right.
There's so many gray areas and so much other things and so much hurt because it wasn't just that she also put children in other homes that might have been wealthy people. She put children in homes as servants and servitude and sex slaves and some really disgusting stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, my grandmama did get lucky. She ended up with some really great people.
Mhm. And it
I
is
mean,
important to note that there were many children that died in that um, time period as well. I think about around 1920,
oh yes,
about 20 children had died in those
we have
circumstances
a
too.
we have a huge in our cemetery. We have a huge graveside that's just a mass grave for them, and it's heart wrenching.
Mm.
I just mm,
So you get to the point where they say, okay, we're unlocking it. Here's because some of these practices are still used today. Some of these, incidentally enough, some of the practices that Georgia Tan herself
mhm,
um, put in place are still used in the system today, which blows my mind.
mhm.
Um, uh, but nonetheless, you get to the point where they say, okay, we're going to unlock the information. Here you go. Here's your grandmother's file. You go. Like how like what is your thought process at that time? You're like you search and search and search and search for and then they just go, okay, here you go. And then your thought is,
What is her real full name? How old is she really? Because, like, no offense, as much as I loved her, she looked way older than what I thought she was. Like, I'm like, how old are you really?
mhm,
You tiny little wrinkly woman. Um, just um, do you have like what are your parents' real names? You know, because I had known her by these names and what could it possibly be? And I have this folder in my hands. Do I open it? Do I look at it? Do I read it? Do I find out? How nosy do I get? I have
mm.
all the, like I have all the power of the universe in my hands.
Right, right.
And so
Was it a delayed decision to open that? Was there much trepidation about that?
for me, it was I shouldn't open it. I need to wait and let her be the one to open it.
Right.
And so I wait. It was like, do I wait and give it to her for Christmas or a special holiday? And I thought, no, because she may not be promised tomorrow. Because at this point, she was also not in really great health,
Right.
and not knowing how old she really was or anything else. So I got together with her, um, and we just got into a room together. And I just told her, I was like, if you want to open this, open it. If you don't, I completely understand. But can I open it by myself and look?
Yeah.
You know, if you
I'm good
don't
to
want me
go.
to, I completely understand. But I was like, whatever you decide.
Yeah.
And then she just grabbed my hands and she was like, let's do this together. And I was just like, okay.
And were you relieved at that point? Were you really, or were you still nervous to about what you would see or find?
I was really nervous to see what I would find.
Mm.
For her mostly.
For her mostly.
Mostly for her because I didn't want it to be a letdown. Because I
Mm.
knew that she wasn't gonna get really the answer of, "Do I have any siblings?" I knew that that wasn't gonna be in there. And I knew that she had resolved herself of, "I'm okay not knowing." Because she had said it, like, "I think I'm too old." Even though I told her, "You're not. We'll find them. If you wanna find them, we'll find them." Like, it was such her dream to be in a documentary, to be on 60 Seconds, to be
Mm.
on Dateline, to
Mm.
be reunited with them, to say, "This is our story.
Yeah.
We found one another." Like, she wanted that so much. And she was, oh my gosh, she was glued to the TV watching when every one of those came out. That was hyper focused, besides
Mhm.
watching soap operas. Um, she she was zoned in. And when she opened it, I think she was so relieved
Okay.
because of finding out, like, this is my last name.
Mm.
This is who I am. I'm Irish. I'm this old. I wasn't too far off from everything.
Wow.
This
What
is
an
my,
incredible moment to share with her.
it was so absolutely amazing. And then just to ask her, what's the next step? What do you want to do? I'm
Yeah.
here for whatever you want to do, whatever journey you want to take. If you want to find, you know, your mother, your father, whatever it is you want to do. Sadly, the father's name wasn't even on the birth certificate. I
It
will
wa
tell you that.
it was what? Sorry?
The father's name wasn't on the birth
It
certificate. I will tell you
wasn't. Oh, it wasn't. Why
that.
do you think that was?
I did learn that.
Oh,
I
you did
did
oh,
learn.
you found out?
I did find that out 2 years ago,
Oh my
or
gosh.
speculation of who it could be.
Sure, sure,
So still speculation
sure.
of who possibly it could be. So that's the, like, okay,
And that gentleman is no longer with us, or he's still around? No longer.
no,
No longer.
no longer.
Oh man,
Very good. It's kind of like, well,
my goodness. And so what was the next step for you? After knowing all of this, finding all of this stuff out, doing all this research, giving this sort of a gift to your grandma of, you know, information of who she is and where she's come from, and sense of relief of confirmation of who she is. Where did that lead you as an individual?
finding out more about her, of where it kind of led her in her journey in life, things that affected her that kind of led, I guess, to see how it affected her, knowing, okay, she's been married twice. She has this many kids. I mean, because you're talking about she's had 6 kids.
Six
She's had
kids.
6 kids.
Wow.
Um, no, to find out like what led her to have the relationships that she did, because I saw this dynamic with her and her kids that she had, like what led with this dynamic with each of your kids. Um, just finding out about each of them, I, I kind of became her keeper of secrets in a way,
Mm,
but then just finding out so much stuff that I kind of didn't bargain for,
okay.
that it led me to so much deeper understanding
Right.
of each of those generational curses
I get you. Yep.
and understanding each of the children,
Mm-hmm. Sure.
you know, and almost understanding a little bit of my biological mother.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
I suppose it doesn't excuse it, but you understand it more.
because she was, my biological mother was considered the black sheep, and
Mm,
she was, by their standards. But then understanding really and truthfully, she wasn't. They all were. I
right.
mean, and I know we kind of flip that perspective that really and truthfully, a black sheep is about breaking generational curses,
Mm-hmm.
setting our own lineage and everything else now. But for those generations, like the black sheep was the person, the black sheep was the person who um, was the one that acted out, the
Oh,
one
sure.
that
The one
had
to blame for
problems.
everything. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
but
Sure.
really and truly, looking at each of them and their dynamic, um, they they all had these issues. They just what really separated each of them is that they had money and other things. They were all dysfunctional in their own right.
Sure.
Um, when I was younger, though, I didn't see it that way. I thought that they had it all together, that they were cool, they were fancy, and thinking, I wish that she could be more like them.
Mm.
And they pitied me. And so when my mom and my daddy got me, they were like, "Oh, we're so thankful. We're so thankful that that's the best thing that could happen." And they're right, it was. But then when I started to be able to look at it from afar in a bigger picture, I thought, how dare y'all?
Mm.
Y'all are all dysfunctional. I mean, who really isn't dysfunctional, really and truthfully?
We
But
all are in our own ways. Yeah.
exactly. But I thought, you all have this, oh my gosh.
Mm. It's sort of a self-righteous tone about
But
it.
the only difference was is that each of them had done something different with their lives, and they all had more money.
Sure.
They had more things, you know.
Well,
So
and as history will tell you, things make you happy. So.
exactly. And then her being able to tell me and spend time with me to say, okay, this is this is this, and this is that.
Right.
So her giving me a better understanding of each thing, and then kind of directing me what to do and what not to do,
Right.
how not to repeat history.
Right. What an incredible, incredible, incredible story. I have to ask you, did Annie ever have kids?
That's something I'm researching too.
Okay, so maybe
It's
that's
the key.
a part 5. What's now, without giving anything away, and I don't want to pry too much because you've been so generous in
Oh no.
sharing this story. What might part 5 hold for us?
Definitely letting know the outcome of um, her getting the information, but also letting know what happened with her.
Mm,
Um,
yeah, yeah. I can't tell you enough how amazing, and I've said it 100 times already, and I'll say it 100 times more. How amazing and how brave it is of you to share this story with us. And again, I am all in, invested in this incredible adventure and journey that you've decided to go on. You're so, like, it's so, like, it's insane to think like a lot of people would just not think about it. And for you to dive in as a child, as a child, to do this research and have such a vested interest in your own family and where your family came from and who you are and self-discovery and self-healing and all of that that encompasses who you are as a person. It's incredibly brave and absolutely fascinating. Um, and I truly am honored to know you. It really is my honor to know you and to consider you a friend. I think you're a beautiful person, and I mean, if you ever need any help in any way with your journey on this, you have my 100% support. But I want to thank you so much for sharing this story with us, and I look forward to continuing to hear about it.
Thank you. Just sanity to the part when I get to my own
Yeah,
my own when I get to self, that will probably be it's easier for me to talk about other people in my family because
sure.
it's like that's them.
Yeah, leave me out of
But
it.
when I get to because like when I drew when people were like, this makes no sense at all. I'm like, what part? They're like, all of it. And I'm like, do I need to draw a diagram? And that's when I drew that awful diagram.
You have that family tree that you drew.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
like, and then there's this person and this person. And I was like, there's my mother and there's thing 1 and 2.
Mm-mm.
And so when I have to get to that, when
Yeah.
I dive into that part, when I get to self and when I dive into that effect,
Mm.
when I'm like her and them,
Mhm.
that's when it will get really, that's when I'll be like, hey Jimmy, hey girl, hey.
Hey, you have time for a chat? Always,
So,
always, always,
but thank you.
always.
Thank
And I
you.
I love that you incorporated the bits of the audio from your when you tape the conversation with your grandma. I love that. Like that is just such a key piece. Not, and I know I say story as if it's a movie and it's your life, and I want to respect that. And I say story because it takes us all on such an adventure, but it's such an integral part of telling this journey that you're on. And I'm just so glad for you that you have those things.
Me too. I want to take this one part that she talks about when she comes back here, um, and film parts to where I can walk everybody through parts of the city that she discusses. Her first job and the sounds of the city, because she lived parts of her life kind of in silence.
Mm,
Um, and eventually losing her, a lot of her hearing English, and she lost her voice. So I had to interpret for her parts of her life. But show parts of the city that she's walking through and filming that, and then also showing people where the orphanage was, um, and
Right.
where the graves are. And so I'm trying to work on that, but I knew I needed to hold off on the holiday, um, and let that pass because holiday and then surgery. But having that and letting that and people see what this looks like instead of them depending on researching it themselves in Wikipedia and everything else and give people the sights, the sounds, and I can't give you the smell, but
Right. Have you thought about writing this down? Like, have you thought about writing a book from your perspective and your experience? Have you thought about doing that, or creating a documentary?
I have a little bit here and there. I've, I mean, because have, I wouldn't be the first writer in my family. It seems to kind of be a thing for some of our family. Um,
Well, you just tell a story so well, and I think if anybody has a chance to go check you out on TikTok as well. What's your? Do you want to say your TikTok handle?
I don't know if they'll be able to because it's Blue Eyed Girl 4, but it's not the way it sounds and
So
spells.
it's BLUD
BLUIDGRL 4.
4. Okay, if you have a chance, you're listening to this, go check out the TikTok, and it's about 3 or 4 stories down, and that's when the series starts. There's 4 parts so far, but
I have
you
pictures
definitely
of them, so you'll be able to see it.
you
It
definitely
starts with
have a
the same
gift. You definitely have a gift. Yeah.
Mhm.
Miss Alicia, thank you so much for co-hosting with me today, for
Thank you
sharing
for
your
having me.
story, for laughing with me, for being such a light in my life. You're a truly amazing, special, wonderful girl, and I love you.
So are you, and I absolutely adore you. And if anybody got bored through this, it's me.
No boredom here. Before we go, rumor has it you have a tip of the day, ma'am. Give
Well,
it.
I mean, through grits and grace, it's about as much as I can.
There you go. That's our motto for life, through grits and grace.
Through grits and grace, that's how I get through everything. So
I love it. I love it. Thank you again. Is there anything you want to shout out before we head out? We've done your
just
TikTok. Anything else you want to share before we cap it off?
just remember, y'all, absolutely butter my biscuits and bless my grits as always.
Love it. All right. We'll see you soon. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Love you, Jenny.
Love you too, bro.